too great a task to solve by just going beyond their gates. But I don't agree. We know what works. There is ample amount of research literature and many people across the country, right here at Flagg, who are having success. And I have seen what works when I was in Baltimore City, where I came into a district that at that time, before the turnaround, was the second lowest performing city school system in the entire nation, next to the city of New Orleans, and is now one of the most improved city school systems in the country. We've been lucky there to have a series of really talented people leading the system, and from that foundation we built, they have been able to take it, each successive superintendent, to the next level. I also further learned what works when in 2001 I was appointed superintendent of the Washington County Public Schools, a high poverty district in the Appalachian Highlands of Maryland. Very different than your setting here, but nearly 1 in 4 students, as you have now, was not graduating from the school system. And now, with the new national graduation standards in place, the rate is just under 90%. And this significant change was accomplished mostly in about 6 years, not decades. The effort to do this was strong, focused, and determined, and involved a number of key elements. Namely, it started with very in-depth strategic planning, which specified the outcomes to be attained with benchmark and other data indicators warehoused for every single student, every school year, for every high school. This enabled the system to monitor students very carefully. There was easy user-friendly access by teachers and others to student data. Parents could also have access, and do have access, to their own students' information very easily logging on to the internet. They can find out everything they need, but maybe some of the students wouldn't like that so well, I don't know. Parents appreciated it though. Specific budgeted amounts attached to specific actions and initiatives to support change and progress. And what I've learned through all of that is that what gets resourced gets accomplished, what gets noticed gets done. And that if you have the will to do a particular thing, which in our case was to turn around that dropout rate, it can happen with the right attention. We also worked on developing leadership skills, not only for the so-called leaders of the school system, but for everybody. Teachers needed to be leaders of all of these initiatives if they were really going to occur and happen. We expected bus drivers to be leaders. Often in our school system, bus drivers were the first people who saw the students at the beginning of the day. We wanted them to be on board with the mission and to talk to students about not dropping out, to talk to students about graduating. Secretaries, who, by the way, in national polls that are conducted on education every year, the school secretary and the school custodian are the most trusted people in the school. Did you know that? It's fascinating. Who do you think is the least trusted person in the school system? Superintendent Tolliver? No, the principals are right in mid-range there. So if these are the most trusted people in education, they're the ones who have to talk to parents, to kids, to business leaders, to the community about the mission of the school system and the goal. We have to get every student to graduate. We have to get less to drop out. And they did that. You also have to focus on what really matters, Stephen Covey's notion of first thing first. And on the daily press of life, we often put the most important things in our personal life as well as professional lives to the back burner. And we made a conscious effort to put these things we wanted to accomplish for kids on the front burner, paying the most attention to them. We created positions specifically designed to support individual students academically, along with as early as possible effective interventions. We operated on a medical model. We didn't say, could you imagine going back to a doctor if your child had serious head trauma, or your child had something really wrong, and the doctor said to you, I may be able to do something, I may not. we could try this, or we might try that, and I hope it turns out well. We don't do that in schools anymore. We say, this is what we're going to do to attack this problem. Your child's in 3rd grade and not reading yet. Your child's entering 9th grade and has really weak math skills. This is exactly what we're going to do. We have a protocol that we've learned that works. And if that one doesn't work, we'll have another one, and then another one, until we find something that does work. There's lots of awareness training and staff development around the dropout problem that we had in the school system. And then last but not least, and very, very important point, and I shouldn't have put it last, a major effort to recruit partners and volunteers in support of accomplishing all of our stated goals. And I commend all of you for being here and for having been in the dropout prevention summits, because that tells me that in this area there are some committed community people who do want to make a difference and are willing to volunteer to turn things around. So what my experience on a personal level has taught me is that it can be done, not only locally or statewide, but nationally as well. With the right attitude and a good plan, it can be done. As the inscription to the Texas Ranger Memorial says, there's nothing that can stop a ranger with a plan that keeps on a-coming. And that's what I think you need to do to go beyond your gates. My experience has also taught me that when we expect the best, young people will respond with their best. And I hope the young people would back me up on that. They don't need excuses from us. They need to be held to high standards. Watching students become motivated and begin to reach for higher goals is why I have been an unstinting advocate for high standards in public education, because I know what the power of meeting high expectations can bring about. Sadly, I have personally witnessed the damaging effect that no expectations and low standards can have on children, and have also seen the transformational effect on an entire school system, school, or individual students that high standards, if consistently applied, can have. That is the reason I dislike the epithets at risk or disadvantaged attached to children. Because in my experience, all too often, students who live in poverty and other difficult circumstances are mostly at risk of attending low-performing schools, being subjected to substandard teaching, and being held to the lowest expectations imaginable that you would never accept for your own children. And often students are disadvantaged by being given the few opportunities to reach beyond their world that I talked about earlier. The work starts with schools, but it doesn't end there. We have to go beyond the gates. It's how you describe your work here in Stockton, and it really is an organizing principle behind the Grad Nation campaign as well. Schools can't do it alone because most of the factors that impact school performance involve things that happen beyond the walls and hours of school. Schools cannot provide all the caring adults that children need across the areas of their lives. Schools cannot provide all the assistance and safe places that students need after school and in the summer. Schools cannot provide all of the access to health care that children need so they're in school and ready to learn. Schools cannot provide the foundation that very young children need so that they don't arrive in kindergarten already a year or two behind, as so many children do. We cannot expect the schools to fill all of those gaps. So we must build partnerships such as you're building in this community, involving the broader community to lay the strong foundation for our students. Colin and Alma Powell's goal for the Grad Nation campaign, as President Ibeck said, is to mobilize the entire nation to raise high school graduation rates to 90% by the end of the decade. A tall order.